Hello everybody, we're back with a unique set of some Go Battle League matches in the Ultra League, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at a team of Cresselia, Giratina, and Escavalier. You can see that our record throughout the Ultra League ranks have been quite positive. We've won 48 matches and only taken 2 losses. And the team that I was actually using before this one was Lapras in the lead, a Giratina switch in, and Escavalier in the back. However, I opted to replace the Lapras with Cresselia just to test something different out. And at these higher ranks, I think that the bulk of this team really helps shine through some negative matchups. The 2 losses that I took was basically because I was running Lapras. And Lapras is still a good Pokemon. It does counter a lot of the meta, and it is a great utility Pokemon in general. But you do get walled pretty hard by certain things. And because of that, I opted to bring in something with a little bit more versatility, that being Cresselia. Now this team does have its weaknesses, just like any team, but the reason that I opted to switch to Giratina with Shadow Claw in the lead is because it can actually hang with Steel types a little bit better. You can see here we're able to beat that Scizor by shielding up or matching shields with it and using the Shadow Claw and Shadow Sneak combination. Oftentimes, in the Steel matchups with Giratina, you're going to be able to keep pace with the opponent's Pokemon, whether that be an Empoleon, a Registeel, an Escavalier, or a Scizor. The only thing that you can't outpace with Giratina is basically a Berserker, because those Shadow Claws and foul plays do super effective damage. But we're able to win those lead scenarios more often than not, again, because even though Giratina's moves aren't well, Shadow Sneak isn't the best. Dragon Claw and Shadow Claw are actually really good, but Shadow Sneak is terrible. But just because Giratina has such amazing bulk, you're able to really keep pace with a lot of those matchups that you would think would be negative matchups. So in this particular instance, the opponent went with an Empoleon as their second Pokemon, so they're running double Steel, and at that stage we're fine to let the Giratina go down, bring in our Steel counter, which we have in the back, which is the Escavalier. Easily going to be able to take that matchup when shields are still in play, because you do want to avoid getting hit with Hydro Cannons. That is one of the crappy things about Escavalier, is that it can't take more than 1 Hydro Cannon. But that being said, this is why we have Cresselia on the team now. And Lapras did fill a decent role in this regard, because Lapras has bulk as well. It's just that Cresselia has more bulk. And a lot of the matchups that Lapras would win, Cresselia also wins pretty handedly as well. And it gives you a little bit extra versatility. So that was the thinking behind it. In addition to that, I haven't really seen any Alolan Mucks, which obviously this team has a very glaring weakness to. So because I don't see Alolan Mucks, I opted to run 2 things weak to it, because again, it's not common in the meta anymore. It was very common in Season 1. It's actually one of the Pokemon that I ran in Season 1. So that being said, in this next matchup, you can see that we started off with a very bad lead. This is not something that Giratina could win with or going up against an Articuno. So we opted to switch into an Escavalier. Again, not the best answer to an Articuno. To think of it, all 3 of these Pokemon on my team are not really good against Articuno, but they're better matchups than the Giratina is. So we opted to swap into our Escavalier. The opponent could have stayed in, but they opted to swap into their Swampert. And the reason we had to let that second Hydro Cannon go through after shielding up the first one is because if we shielded it, the Swampert would have been able to outpace the Escavalier to a Hydro Cannon anyway, so it would have been a wasted shield. So we have to let it go, bring back in the Giratina so we get some utility out of it in taking out the Swampert, and we're still up a shield. I was anticipating that they would bring in an Articuno, and what did I just say? You don't really see Alolan Mucks anymore. How on earth? This is basically an automatic loss, right? I mean, what are we going to really do here? We're going to let the Alolan Muck take out the Giratina, and we're going to bank everything on Cresselia with a shield. Because at this stage, the Giratina has no play against Alolan Muck. The Shadow Claws are resisted. Against the Articuno, it's going to get shredded by those Ice Shards. So at least Cresselia, even though those Psycho Cuts are resisted, you're not depending on Psycho Cut for damage, you're depending on it for energy generation. And at least the Moonblast will hit for neutral damage. So we are hoping that we can outpace this Muck to another Moonblast. We do. Again, they have no shields, so it's basically a Cresselia at about 40% health versus an Articuno that's about 70% health. We're going to be able, because we built up energy, to outpace this Articuno to the Moonblast. This is great. We don't get the debuff. That would have been really, really helpful, but that's okay. They're going to fire off this Icy Wind. We have no more shields. So at this stage, it's basically a race to the next charge move. We do win this race because we had an energy advantage. For those of you that don't know, if you're running Cresselia in the lead, or if you're running Articuno in the lead and you're facing up against a Cresselia or Articuno respectively, so Cresselia versus Articuno, or your Articuno versus the opponent's Cresselia, Cresselia will get to its Moonblast first, at the same time basically that Articuno gets to its Icy Wind. However, because Ice Shard is a longer animation, the Cycle Cut will register the end of its animation first. I believe this is how it works, and this is why Cresselia is able to fire off its Moonblast ahead of the Articuno's Icy Wind. This is the first instance of both of you charging up to your charge move when you're both at 0 energy, you know, starting the match off fresh, lead scenario kind of thing. However, after you get that Moonblast off, the Articuno, because it has residual energy from firing off its first Icy Wind, will actually get to its second Icy Wind before Cresselia gets to its second Moonblast. So you have to be aware of that fact. If Cresselia has an energy advantage in that Articuno-Cresselia matchup, the Cresselia will most likely outpace the Articuno to both of its charge moves before the Articuno gets to its Icy Winds. And that is the reason we were able to win that previous matchup, because we had a little bit of residual energy from the Alolan Muck matchup. So a very subtle nuance, but very critical in us winning that match, because that match was seemingly unwinnable. And I had to go into that detail and basically ignore talking about this next matchup here because it was so important. In this one though, again, Cresselia really can deal with those starter Pokemon very effectively. You can see there the opponent opted to swap in the Venusaur, most likely to save their Charizard and hoping to catch a Moonblast, but we did see the grass icon in the top right of the screen. Seeing that it was grass, we threw the Future Sight, which would have, well, you saw what it did to the Venusaur, took it down to basically 5% HP, and we were able to farm it down with the Cresselia from there. At that point, with the Charizard coming back in, we're able to take it out, and then when the Empoleon comes in, easy cleanup with the Escavalier, because that's what it's meant to do, clean up the steel types in the back, and we're able to effectively take that match. So going 5-0 in that set to hit rank 7, you're going to see right here, and we're going to end up going right up to 2432 rating. Quite effective right off the bat, very close to rank 9 in just 55 matches, so very effective. And we're going to go into the next set of matches to basically register the rank 8, and we're going to see how we do. So lead scenario, terrible. Togekiss against Giratina. Despite us having Dragon Claw, we virtually have no play against Togekiss there. So, or sorry, despite us having Shadow Claw. So we want to get out of that matchup. So we swap into our Cresselia, which is essentially our safe swap. And the opponent has the perfect counter, Registeel. This is not uncommon. Togekiss Registeel really breaks the Giratina and Cresselia core. So this team, a very hard counter to mine. And you're going to see how we play around this. Essentially, in my other videos, I've talked much about, despite, if you're going to use this tactic, despite you swapping into a negative matchup, because if the opponent ends up swapping into a Registeel, it can be really bad for you. If shields are still in play, you have some options. You can stall out the match a little bit and opt to continue to switch Pokemon. You're essentially going to have to reveal your whole line in order to hopefully find something on your team that the opponent doesn't completely hard counter. So in this case, it appears to be our Escavalier. The opponent did not opt to directly bring back in their Togekiss when we swapped it in against the Registeel, which leads me to believe they have either another steel type in the back that's even weaker to Escavalier than Registeel is, which is hard to believe, but maybe it's like a Melmetal or a Berserker or something, or they have a grass type, which if it was a grass type, it Escavalier double resists like everything a Venusaur would throw at it, for example. So the opponent, this is the play that made the opponent lose the match. The fact that they gave up switch advantage so late and swapped into their Togekiss. We opted to shield the Togekiss's charge move because we knew we were going to be able to barely get to another Future Sight and take out that Togekiss. We had to take out that Togekiss. We had no option there. I had to swap out as well because I couldn't let this Registeel farm down the Cresselia. And I have to just hope, like I said, what they have in the back is something that Giratina could handle quite effectively. And sure enough, it was the grass type. So we just got really lucky here at the end because we had, like I said, we had to bank on the fact that the opponent had something that Giratina could handle in the back, because our Giratina didn't really have too much play against the Registeel or the Togekiss. So that is the risk of running Giratina. However, it does catch, the reason I run it is because it does catch a lot of positive matchups like Swamperts, a lot of the other steel types like Scizor, Melmetal, like I've mentioned before. And it's just a good overall neutral Pokemon because of its bulk. However, you will suffer against Charmers in the lead, mainly Togekiss, because that's what people run. You will suffer against Laprases in the lead, which aren't too common, and Articunos, which again aren't too common. So it's not a bad lead. However, if you do run into those negative matchups, you need to basically have bulky Pokemon in the back ready to counter whatever the opponent has in the lead. So in this next matchup, we finally catch a good lead with the Escavalier versus the Giratina. I know how this matchup goes because on another account that I leveled up through the Ultra League, I did run Escavalier in the lead quite often, and I know how much of a struggle the Shadow Claw Giratina matchup is. You can see there just how positive. Escavalier wasn't even able to get us down to 50%, and we were able to take it out. It's just that good. They swap into their second steel type, so they're running double steel. And again, Giratina with Shadow Claw has a lot of play against those steel types. So you're going to see, again, just how effective this is. We're not going to shield anything up because we want to keep on even shields with our opponent because we don't know what they have in the back. It could be something that completely hard counters Cresselia. But, I mean, if it is something that hard counters Cresselia, most likely Escavalier can deal with it. So they take out our Giratina. They're opting to swap into their Swampert because they don't want to get farmed down. And at this stage, there's not too much the opponent can do. In this matchup, Hydro Cannon is the more energy efficient move, but Earthquake will deal more damage. So as the Swampert, you technically want to throw Hydro Cannons because it deals more damage for your energy. However, if you're about to be KO'd and you're not going to be able to get to 2 Hydro Cannons, but you're at an Earthquake, obviously you throw the Earthquake and not try to get to 2 Hydro Cannons, even though the 2 Hydro Cannons would deal more damage for the energy that you generate. And Earthquake is a higher damage move, so if you're at the point where, you know, an Earthquake would finish off the Cresselia, then you would throw an Earthquake instead of 2 Hydro Cannons, because you don't need the extra energy. You go overkill on those Hydro Cannons. So this is my philosophy when I shield up some of these Hydro Cannons, is I know that it's the more energy efficient move. Opponents shouldn't really be going for Earthquake again in this matchup. However, I know that some people do. We get the attack drop here, and at this stage, we were able to get this charge move off before the opponent was able to fire off their Hydro Cannon. They probably like closed the app or something here. They were just frustrated because they had energy. And my guess is they didn't think that we had a charge move ready on our Escavalier. But it was pretty much a wrap anyways. I mean, look how much work the Giratina put in at the beginning. We were in such a positive position. The opponent virtually had nothing that they could really do. So anyways, going into this fourth match here, we're met with another Scizor lead with Fury Cutter. So again, the way I play this matchup is I don't shield until I see the opponent shield or they get a boost from the Night Slash. So the opponent throws a Night Slash, they get the boost. So this is really bad. So essentially at this stage, when I see they get the boost, I have to swap out because I can't play this matchup. Those Night Slashes do a lot of damage. So I have to go into something that's going to be a little bit more effective against the Scizor. And essentially the whole point here is kind of a psychological play where I want to make my opponent think, okay, let me swap out too because they swap. And so that's exactly what they do. The Escavalier versus Scizor matchup isn't actually that good for Escavalier. We do win it, but especially against a boosted Scizor, the Escavalier is going to lose. We're going to have to expend our shields. Those Night Slashes are going to do a ton of damage, but the opponent falls for it and they swap out. Now, admittedly, Togekiss versus Escavalier is not really a good matchup for Escavalier either because the Togekiss double resists both the Drill Run and the Mega Horn. So they're able to charm us down, but this is fine because we're going to be able to bring in our Cresselia here. And I believe we go for the Psycho Cut down on this Togekiss. So we're not going to shield up any Ancient Powers. They're going to swap out. Oh man, I remember this match. Yeah, so my guess is they swapped into Togekiss to meet the Escavalier. Man, like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, sorry, yeah, they probably swapped out into the Togekiss to meet the Escavalier because they thought we had a Steel type in the back, which is why they kept their Conkeldurr. So this miscalculation on my opponent's part, this is what I'm guessing. Obviously, I don't know, but that's my guess to what the opponent was thinking. The fact that we had a Cresselia in the back really screwed them over because now their Conkeldurr had no play. They should have swapped in the Conkeldurr against the Escavalier. But Togekiss isn't a bad option to Escavalier either because, like I mentioned, it's going to double resist everything that Escavalier throws at it. The counters are double resisted, the Drill Run and the Mega Horn is double resisted. As the Escavalier, you want to just throw the Mega Horns because it gets stabbed. Even though it's double resisted, it's the best damaging move you have against a Togekiss. But it is a really tough matchup. This team does struggle against Togekiss in the lead, but you've seen multiple instances now where we've been able to overcome it. When Togekiss is in the back, you know, if you can line up the Cresselia against the Togekiss, we can do a lot of work against it, but overall, it's a very, very tough matchup. So I had to go and then come back home before I was able to finish off the last match in the set. And once again, man, Togekiss in the lead. Very, very rough. My opponent, man, I don't know. Again, we swap into the Escavalier, knowing that it's not a good matchup against the Togekiss, but it's a better matchup against the Giratina, so we have to sacrifice that. We can't swap into our Cresselia right away, because then the opponent, you know, we wouldn't have any chance of lining up the Cresselia against the Togekiss later on. So the opponent, again, falls for it, says that, okay, we swap, they probably want to swap to maintain the Togekiss versus Giratina matchup. However, you know, they could have stayed in. It probably was the right play to stay in because they have a Lapras in the back, which also does really, really, really well against Giratina Altered. They didn't need to swap. So we're actually able to take that match because, yeah, they probably meant to swap into the Giratina Altered. I can't imagine they meant to swap into Lapras into a counter user unless they don't really know what Escavalier is or are aware of its moveset. So at this stage, I have to line up my Giratina against their Giratina because I need to avoid this Togekiss. Now at this stage with shields down, it's pretty much a wrap. We lined up our Cresselia against the Togekiss. This is a positive matchup with shields down for the Cresselia. And we're going to opt to throw 2 Moonblasts because if we threw a Future Sight, we would still need to throw a Moonblast. So save the energy, do the more energy efficient option here. And this play, I noticed that they were farming up quite a bit of energy with the Charm. Normally I would not have shielded there, but I actually anticipated that they might have had Dazzling Gleam. Because normally you would want to save your shield for the Giratina versus Giratina matchup. You save the shield for one of the opponent's Dragon Claws, and then you can land your super effective Dragon Claws. But that shield against the Togekiss solidified this match because we were able to land this super effective Moonblast on the opponent's Giratina. I could have just swapped in and gone instantly for the Dragon Claw. To be honest, I didn't even know I had one stored, but it didn't matter. The opponent got one Dragon Claw off. We're going to be able to easily take this match by throwing our Dragon Claw and come back from that insanely bad lead. So just goes to show that it is possible to switch matchups when you have a very bulky team because you're running out the clock a lot. You're running out that switch timer. You have a Pokemon that spam charge moves, which take up time. So you're able to keep things moving, the flow of the match moving very, very effectively. It's not going to work every time, but often you're going to be able to at least have some play where you're going to be able to come back from really negative matchups just because of the bulk on your team. So there's the matches, guys. Able to hit rank 8 with a 2459 rating. We'll probably go back on this account at some point, but 58 wins out of 60 battles, only 2 losses. Let me know what you think, but thank you for watching. Quantum is out.